Hello and welcome to FP Talks. I'm Farooq Patafi. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, kindly do so. Also follow the bell icon so that whatever I publish here immediately reaches you. That is not all. My socials are being flashed in front of you. Kindly follow as soon as possible because I keep on updating most of those socials for your convenience, right? It has been quite a while since I made a full length or a long form video, but today I'm going to do it. And there are many purposes that I will explain. But first of all, because we have seen some semblance of sanity prevail in South Asia, let me compliment all the forces that played a constructive role, starting with President Donald Trump, who has shown, and his team also, Vice President J.D. Vance, and also Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and umpteen other people who have played a very constructive role. Similarly, Saudis, the Iranians, they also played a very important role. And then we know that when it comes to Pakistan, China, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and most of the South Asian countries, minus of course India, have all been on Pakistan's side. So you are seen, sirs, and really thankful to you for your support and being the voice of sanity in this madness that we have witnessed in the past 1 month, I think. Yeah, 1 month or almost 1 month, right? But apart from that also, I think that at this moment, the reason why I'm making this video is also to remind our Indian friends what they have lost. They seem to think that this is some kind of tactical, upset, and they're going to regain ground. I assure you that you have actually totally pulverized India's interests, at least in the medium term, short and medium term. In the long term, of course, you always have the benefit of hindsight, and you can always look back and try to find a correction. So today what we are going to do is we are going to actually do a postmortem of India's various strategy failures in the past few days, especially since the start of Operation Sindoor, which was, again, when it comes to pretending, it was a pretending disaster. And they tried to actually compensate it, but they couldn't. So that is also there. But I have like 13 points actually to share with you and tell you what went wrong and how exactly, how much exactly has been lost. To me, at least, this is reverse Kargil. Kargil, the nuclearization of 1998 and then Kargil were those seminal moments which actually delivered most of the world powers, influential countries to India. Those countries like China, which had fought war, they became somewhat neutral. And America immediately came to the rescue of India. And India since then has been actually gaining a lot of traction and support from the West. But now, with this strategic suicide, you have actually demolished all the work of so many people who have done it in the past. You'll realize that Pakistan did not need to, when it comes to optics or image or culture war or narratives, Pakistan did not need to do anything. It was like taking candy from a child. All we had to do was point at you and just wait and shrug. The world could see all the contradictions on display in your media, in your statements, and the haste in which you actually try to actually make all the moving parts possible. That was absurd. So the first thing, of course, point number one is lack of evidence, or which I call the crisis of credibility. When something of this sort happens, especially in a place which is not easily accessible, right? Even Indians need ponies or horses to actually reach that place. And it was a sad incident. We all condemned it as soon as we heard it. And I think that was enough. While India keeps on actually referring to other countries condemning it as its diplomatic win, the truth is that was about it. Everybody said that it was wrong and India had the right to defend itself. It doesn't mean start a war with another country, another nuclear country, right? And because the moment this happened, you did not produce any evidence. You did not even apprehend the perpetrators, the 4 or 5, whatever number also keeps on changing, right? Although you seem to know the names, you seem to have pictures, but you couldn't find the people anywhere in the world, right? Especially in India, especially in Indian-controlled Jammu and Kashmir. So that in itself was the creation of the foundation of a crisis of credibility. The moment you did it, what happens? The next thing happens is that you actually come out and start blaming Pakistan. That is not all. You actually overreact and suspend IWT in this water treaty. And then so many other things also happen along with that, diplomatic cancellations and whatnot. And anybody who was watching must be thinking that there is some evidence that you have got. But then what happens? Then you give briefing to diplomats, and all you have got is the story about OBL and the story about Mumbai and umpteen other cases that you think they are there against Pakistan, but nothing current. Till the time you do not connect with the current reality, people would think that you are evidence light. So this is what happened, right? That is the first thing. After that, the way India actually comes together, or the way India actually starts projecting these demands and this anger management issues, immediately people, and in the past people might have let it slide, although there have been rumblings about India's attitude forever. But the question then arises regarding India's sense of entitlement, that India is this country that, without giving evidence, actually is not only accusing another country but also being very aggressive about it, and hopes that the entire world actually falls in line. That might have worked in the past because the strategic realities were very different. That is not the case anymore, right? And this sense of entitlement, you used to actually use the word terrorism interchangeable with Islamophobia. Later on, we are going to actually talk about Islamophobia's limits also, but interchangeable with Islamophobia. And you thought that, like this, there was this Joe Rogan TV series in which he says that there is a term that if you utter that, judges immediately actually give a verdict in your favor. What was it? Tubal-Cain, I think. So if you think terrorism is going to have the same resonance to it, that is not the case. The world situation has changed dramatically, and we are going to talk about that also in a bit. Number three, narrative failure. Now, narrative failure is something that you could see actually being projected, because Pakistan played very smart. Immediately after this, Pakistan condemns the incident and also offers to cooperate. Now you can tell the world whatever went wrong in the past, but as I point out, the world realities have dramatically shifted, and you contributed in that. So today, there isn't that kind of need to inhale, the propaganda immediately. So what happens? On one side, your media goes crazy, and we are going to come to media also. On the other side, you see this passive aggressive attitude and posturing, and the narrative does not make any sense, right? How did 4 or 5 people actually manage to travel from line of control through the thicket of Indian military deployment, and then they managed to reach a place which was, as I pointed out, difficult to reach, was difficult to reach for the common man, common Indian persons as well. And they managed to reach there. There was no security. They mowed down people, and then there are stories identification of religion and all. And then all of a sudden they just disappear, and there's no evidence. There's no carbon footprint. There's no trail. There's nothing to support your hypothesis. Of course, past is one aspect, but everything. If you want to do something actionable, if you want to actually have some kind of actionable results, you need to produce something immediately. That did not happen. Then another failure in the narrative, because everybody seems to be so afraid of populism and whatever is going on. There was no call, or hardly any call, for accountability. Immediately, India actually sacks one of its core commanders. Commander Northern Command replaces him with somebody else, but it wasn't his failure, right? This area fell under CRPF, which is under the federal government, which is under whom, aapko chronology samjhe, right? So there was no accountability demand from Amit Shah, even if there's a core commander who might have failed. And of course, there's this question of people actually trekking through very difficult terrain, 150 kilometers, and reaching somewhere. At least hold the minister in charge of defense accountable. There were 2 people. One of them should have gone if you were so sentimental about it. Interior Minister, which is the first call, or then the defense minister. It did not happen. Nobody even asked about it. Did you see anybody actually talking about it? I saw private media people actually doing it, but first they had to actually come, not private media, YouTube, parallel cinema, call it whatever you will. Those people hinted at it, but then they had to immediately say that we know that Pakistan has done it, right? You cannot ask people to take such a thing or make such a thing an article of faith. It will always fail. If it doesn't fail today, it will fail tomorrow, right? So then comes the issue that I just highlighted, change world. I called it strategic latency. You can call it first timing, because you keep on pretending that the world is the same that was yesterday or day before yesterday. You keep on hitting this wall. Why? Because all of a sudden the world dynamics have changed. One, the first time Donald Trump came to power, he declared the global war on terror over. So your biggest, bargaining chip or manipulation was gone. The second thing was China. He had issues with China during his first term, but then when he came back to power, his understanding of history, his understanding of geopolitics had shifted. And he said that why do we give so much support to other countries to counter challenges to us? Why shouldn't we do it? rebuild America rather than rebuilding any other country. So that is something on display. It is on display in Gaza or whatever happened there. It is visible in Ukraine, where they got their mineral deal to compensate for the monies that they might have lost, and they were smart about it. Let us face it. So why would America think that if it has to contain China, it needs India? So the world has changed, right? And of course, it makes perfect sense. This is not the age of huge, ships that actually travel in days from one place to another. Now you can actually reach anywhere without any problem, and then you don't need physically to be there either. You have your satellites. You have so much technology that can be used. We saw deployment of that technology even in this war. So remember, the US has got the best supply of resources. China might be actually challenging certain aspects of it. Chinese approach is very efficient, but even then, America remains miles ahead. So why would it actually spend its resources or goodwill on another country? Right? Don't be fooled by the number of Indians in the administration. We are going to talk about diaspora and abuse of diaspora as well. But at this moment, remember, anybody who's actually sitting in American administration, Trump administration, they are American first. They are not going to change, and they might have a soft corner for you, but that soft corner is purely based on America's core interest. So, worst timing. Number 5, diplomatic failure. Now, without giving people evidence, you're demanding something very big of them. Okay? Whatever Pakistan is, Pakistan, you might have inhaled your own propaganda, but Pakistan is a reality. It is a country of 250 million people. You cannot actually substitute hate for policy. When you do that, you are going to have the kind of blowback that you saw. You immediately thought that by actually mentioning China's name, you are immediately going to get support of America, you're going to get support of Europe. But their relationship with China have really evolved, right? And they're complicated, but they're there. So with that kind of a situation, why would any country want to bet on a horse which seems to be hormonal and actually out of control? And that actually, I think, led to the kind of diplomatic failure. Remember, Pakistan's only blind spot is Israel. And yet we did not see any statement coming from Israel asking India that go ahead and invade Pakistan or attack Pakistan, as your media was saying. So why would that be? Because your ask was not realistic. Because you were confusing sense of entitlement with something that the world owed to you. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes anyone anything, right? Every nation has their own interest. And if you cannot wrap your head around it, you're lost already. So next is... and this actually hurts me too much. I saw it during the Jafar, Express episode, and then I saw it now. There are people who are irrational. India's MSM, mainstream media, is totally bonkers. Everybody knows it. Unfortunately, it is there, and it keeps on hurting India's interest, to our benefit, of course. But there were people who are professional journalists who were driven out of their jobs because they opposed Narendra Modi, and they found, a home in YouTube. And most of these people I've been following, I like them, most of them. But one thing was for sure. Nobody actually thought that attacking or destroying Pakistan was a bad idea. The only difference of opinion, and that actually showed an inherent malice. And that is going to hurt you, not us. I will tell you why as well. But right now, let us stick to what was happening. If your entire approach is that you want Pakistan dead, but there has to be a different approach to it. You have lost everybody who's sitting in Pakistan, no matter how liberal, no matter how big an Indophile they might be. So for the first time, I realized that while I disagree with Narendra Modi on many issues, and I think that I've been one of the most vocal people in this region in the past 11 years, it was a fool's errand. It was stupid because what we were doing, and remember that if you are now modeling, when you're talking about Narendra Modi vis-a-vis somebody else, and that somebody else is Indira Gandhi, the person who actually dismembered Pakistan, or at least separated East Pakistan from West Pakistan. So what are you telling us? You want destruction of another country, right? And that is perfectly all right. That is perfectly acceptable. So whatever your position is, inevitably is going to lead to another Narendra Modi in 5 years, 6 years. Even if you get a reset and you are in power, because you only believe in projecting something that you don't believe in. You want hypocrisy. You want some kind of cover of plausible deniability. That is not going to fly. everything, and this is something that I am going to actually discuss in the next point, right? Everything that you do has consequences. Remember when I said Kargil? Kargil was a time when Pakistan lost most of the world powers to India, and now it is a reverse of that, right? Because Kargil had given birth to something it is like Manmohan Singh's economics. He might have unleashed India's economic potential, but you saw what happened with the non-performing assets, right? Anybody will tell you that India has taken care of those, but they haven't. Those issues persist and they are getting deeper and they will explode also. Like there was an inherent sunset timeline in economic shining moment of India. Similarly, with Kargil also, because you unleashed this media, which was going to actually stoke nationalistic, jingoistic, sentiments, and law of diminishing returns means you have to get more and more aggressive because everything that you do today becomes a new normal tomorrow. Because of that, in the end, it is an escalation ladder, which is inevitably going to lead to some kind of hard, muscular, nationalistic government. And that government will always be intolerant of dissent. So you have actually brought all of this on yourself. So the reason I'm speaking in English is one, I'm not going to. I'm done bending over backwards, speaking to you in your bhasha in Hindi or trying to assuage you. Two, I don't trust you. I am going to speak a language that the world understands because they have some record of whatever is being said. I'm going to make another Urdu video in 24 hours, but that will be for Pakistani domestic audience, more or less the same issues. But it is important to understand what you have lost. You have lost, faith of perhaps the most trusting man in the world. Totally and absolutely. Now I'm happy to call my previous self gullible, right? This is how badly you have shaken my faith in yourselves and your compatibility. So even if you install, Rahul Gandhi, inevitably in 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, it is going to be Yogi Adityanath. It is going to be somebody else of the same sort, right? Even harsher and harder on national interest. So the question is, why the hell was I wasting time braving all the pressures that came from within and without? Well, that could have been avoided. I can be a Modi pulse. Why shouldn't I be? I think that you deserve the kind of political government and culture you have got. Congratulations. Number 7, media and what I call emergent misalignment. Remember that in AI's terms and others as well, any system where you give certain objectives and specifications, when you scale it up, in the end, what happens is that the output might be different from your input or your designed goals. And that is something that has been seen throughout AI. So that also applies to humans because humans have the capacity to absorb hate and redouble it. And that keeps on actually going like that game of telephone, I think, or it used to be called Chinese whispers. So multiplication of hate. When you actually unleash this media at that time, and people keep on saying that Barkhat Dutt is also saying this, how sad. This is what it was. Always, creating or basing your identity on trashing Pakistan. That might have worked for 30, 40 years, whatever the years might be, 30 years, right? Less than 30 years, actually. But it is not going to fly now. And look at what kind of horrible mess your media has made. Honestly, with that visible, that vocal madhouse, anybody could see what exactly is happening, right? Two examples come to my mind. One, what's that gentleman, Republic's chief editor, whatever his name is. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. This is slight lapse. I do remember his name. Yeah, Goswami, right? His reaction to Donald Trump. Now, anybody who watches Indian channels knows for whom these people work. What kind of narrative is there? How much freedom there is in Indian media space, right, or mainstream media space. So, who is going to actually believe that it was his own opinion? On one side, you're asking for a favor to de-escalate. On the other side, you're allowing your attack dogs to actually, and I don't mean it negatively. I'm not going to insult anybody here. Even the major that I'm going to mention, people actually distort his name. I have huge respect for human dignity. I'm not going to distort names. I'm not going to call a human being an attack dog just for the heck of it. I mean, your leading voices, for the lack of better term, I'm just going to say anybody who attacks on your behalf, right? Your cavalry, right? You don't ask for a favor. When you get it, you unleash your cavalry upon them, right? This is highly stupid. You keep on delivering people to us, and that's absurd, unthinkable. It shouldn't be the case, right? And the second one is, of course, that major who actually called the foreign minister of a country who is in your country to actually help you out, and you start calling him the worst name possible for a Muslim to endure, just out of what? Because you wanted to have TRP. Okay, you get TRP, you get ratings, but what else do you get? You get nothing. So these people, and the fact that that person is still on television. Remember, there was at the start of Israel war, there was an episode in Pakistani television. I'm not going to name the channel. I'm not going to name the individual. But one, trigger happy anchor actually ended up saying something rude about another country. So this is what happened. That anchor was sacked. His supervisor was sacked. The head of the department was sacked, and the minister of that department, right, or that of media, had to go personally and apologize to the ambassador. Of course, Pakistan has limited resources; it has problems. That's why we might have to kneel further than others. But even then, this kind of stupidity would have ensured that that person is off air at least for 2-3 months. It did not happen. Everyone knows that whosoever appears on Indian channels, mainstream channels, they do so with the approval of Indian government, Modi government, their ministers, right? So because of the ads, because of all the other techniques they employ, and that has been a known fact. So how could these two gentlemen continue to spew hate towards some of your closest allies? That's unthinkable. That is stupid beyond any idea, any conception. Israel will never do it. If you are so obsessed with Israel's example that every time you actually bring up Israel's name and want to turn Pakistan into Allah, at least copy their example. They never do it. They're far smarter when it comes to diplomacy. And initially we thought that you're learning from them, but now I don't trust that. Nobody in their senses will teach you something of this sort. So it is an emergent misalignment. You started with slightly jingoistic media, and that thing has grown, and it will continue to grow, and it will destroy your lives. And what I'm saying is, I'm not going to repeat it, but at this moment, you have no solution to the damage you have done. I don't think that you will be able to. I can be wrong, but I don't think you will be able to recover from this for another 10 years, at least 10 years. And the kind of changing world we are in. You have absolutely taken a gun to your temple and put it through your head. Number 8, inflexibility and image captivity. What was the point of Operation, Operation Sindoor? And the failure of narrative, by the way, it is also important because everybody could actually understand that when you named this Operation Sindoor, it was coming from a place of misogyny. Had it not been called out, perhaps you would have gotten away with it. But the moment it did, and it was escalated to the Indian government, then there was an attempt to actually poo-poo it and to actually save face. And then, after dictating Muslims for so much time, for the last 1 month, you brought a Muslim colonel and another lady to give the briefing on Operation Sindoor. I don't have words for this kind of stupidity because you had done the damage already there. Everybody could see the jingoistic, hateful, dehumanizing, misogynistic, jerks that are actually, framing the narrative in India. And those people, excuse me, those people are going to think that way for as long as it takes. Again, I can be wrong, but this is what I think happened. Inflexibility. But in the past, Manmohan Singh government had a good sense, and even Vajpayee had a good sense of, everybody knew that this outrage or this rage has been manufactured because you control the media, you control the TRPs, you control everything. Prove me wrong if you can, right? If it was manufactured, rage or outrage, then you could have actually cashed on it. In the past, it has happened. Manmohan Singh actually used Mumbai to get a lot of benefits, of course. You know about testimony of people who have actually come forward and told everybody that Obama had actually given them permission that India does not attack Pakistan, give India whatever it wants, right? Similarly, we saw with Vajpayee also. They got so much support from America, and it has been quite visible everywhere. It won't last for very long, by the way. I'm telling you, just to show, and it is going to be bipartisan issue, even if you try to actually change another government in America, like you change the government in Canada, this will continue to haunt you. So this lack of flexibility, where you could actually manage the outcome by blackmailing people, you lost that touch also. And this image captivity, Everybody was telling us, even your most, loyal, or not loyal, your faithful supporters of the West, that the reason why Narendra Modi has to go to war is that he has this image to maintain of strength, and that's why they'll have to go deeper into Pakistan and strike harder without less proof than before. And that image captivity has also ruined you. Nuclear powers, let alone aspiring nuclear state powers, or then perhaps even, aspiring superpowers, don't do that. And this is terrible. I tell you, terrible. It is going to haunt you beyond your imagination. And I'm sorry, I'm talking slow. It has been 72 hours, 80 hours. I haven't slept, so you'll have to bear with me. I will try to speed it up if I can, but for now, if I don't do that, please make peace with my, halting expression. Then, military advancement failure. You have been procuring like hell, but have you actually looked at the men on the ground? I don't know who actually came up with Agniveer project. You cut down the strength of army. At this moment, you're talking about 2% war. This is your favorite obsession, right? You keep on talking about that. You have spoken about it in the past as well. But do you think that if you're going to fight two countries, one Pakistan, who has actually pushed back beyond anybody's expectations recently, and then China, and now you have a couple of other country problem in the region also. I don't know what Myanmar thinks at this moment, but when it comes to Bangladesh, we have seen what they think. Sri Lanka, you have tried to paralyze them, but even there, the anger must be present, right? Similarly, other countries also. So there's this Nepal, Bhutan, every country. So if you want to have, you want to win or fight, at least fight a good, 2% war, what kind of numbers do you need? Air Force Chief has been repeatedly telling you that he does not have the number of Squadrons, but forget about that. Your army, standing army, is almost twice the size of Pakistan's army, and a lot of big chunk of that is concentrated in Kashmir. It might actually have this advantage of looking on two, frontiers, but the fact is that it is there, concentrated. If you needed to deploy more numbers than Pakistan's army on your western front or eastern front, do you think that you could do that with the kind of hostilities you have had with China recently? You don't need people there. And then General Rawat was perhaps the worst thing that could have happened to India, because he started the idea of theaterization, integration of three forces, and what happens? He goes and dies. And since then, no progress has been made. Morale of all three services is down. In army, when you sack a corps commander, that also really creates a lot of ripples. So you have, congratulations, you have managed to demoralize all three forces that you are actually banking on. They're not very happy. Of course, you might find a chief who might actually be in sync with you, but you have to look at the morale throughout the army. That doesn't seem to be there. And if you want to continue this kind of fight, and we saw the reckless and I don't want to actually go to base language, coarse language, but the kind of statement that your air chief made, that actually shows you how lost you are. Because you try again, you're going to get even bigger pushback, and that is not acceptable. Saying that we could have taken out this or that and we restrained, that is good. But next time you'll have the kind of global support to actually take those things out. No, you won't. Because now the world is seeing you as a bully that you are. The world is seeing Pakistan as an underdog that fought back. And that's why from Russia to America to Israel, nobody said that you have the right to fight a war with Pakistan. And that has actually been compounded. It is not going to come down, because the kind of situation that you have created, your media is still churning out hate literature, hate content. Similarly, your even moderates. If you have lost me, who else have you got, right? So that is another very important issue. Now, let us also talk about lack of economic innovation and primacy leading to disaster. And that is also true, because we have just seen in the past 2 years or 4 years since AI has actually started arriving, India's economy has not been a priority of Indian government. At this moment, it seems that everything is dominated by politics. Cricket is politics. On this image captivity again, religion is politics, foreign policy is politics, and then economic policy is also politics. I have actually made many videos on the economic issues with India, but at this moment you are When you needed to scale up and accelerate, you are being left behind. Not merely by countries like China. China is way ahead of you. Right? Japan, a country that everybody thought that their economy will continue to slow down and it is going to regress very rapidly, giving you that mantle. That country is picking up. Similarly, others are also. And technology is technology. Who understands it better can rule the day. And Chinese are efficient, Japanese are smart, Koreans, Vietnam, Bangladesh, all of these countries have done incredibly well. While your economy keeps on papering on the cracks, over the cracks. So that can actually lead to some very horrible things. Then, and please have some compassion. You did not show any compassion for people you hit. You did not show compassion for the kids who were killed. You kept on saying that those kids that actually died were not there or something of that sort, and you said that you have struck a terrorist base. Now, here's the complicated fact. You might say that it might be associated with certain individuals that you have actually in the past called terrorists, right? But what are you reacting to? You're not reacting to some random whim. You're reacting to Pahalgam. And there has to be a connection. You have to show us who are the perpetrators, what evidence you have to point to Pakistan, what kind of intelligence that you might have, and then you have to actually point out that anybody related to them was there. You haven't been able to. Your story keeps on slipping. You simultaneously call somebody dead, a dead terrorist, and then you saw him actually leading prayers, and then you call him terrorist again, and then it turned out that he was just a religious mullah who was leading prayers, and he was a teacher from a family of teachers. If that is the quality of your homework, you're screwed, right? You get that. But here's the compassion part. I understand that you are physically incapable of showing compassion to any Pakistani. That's why all these murky details keep on coming. How you manipulated Pakistan, rehyphenating Pakistan, not with India, but with Afghanistan, to actually destroy. And the kind of anger and hurt you're feeling when Pakistan has been allowed to access to an IMF tranche. All of this actually shows that you have zero compassion for an ordinary person in Pakistan. You want to make them die of thirst, right? Because your stated objective, and you celebrated it in scuttling IWT, is that Pakistan will keep on wishing for a drop of water. Who in Pakistan? Government of Pakistan. They'll get desalination plants. They'll get whatever they want from ocean or wherever in the world, bottled waters and whatnot. Who are you going to deprive of water? The common man. So your compassion is not there. Then you clearly could not empathize with the people the so-called soft targets who died in those mosques, and the stupidity of attacking mosques. You have a history of demolishing mosques in your own country. Now you are actually doing it in Pakistan, and people must be thinking all over the world, especially because of the kind of vitriol that comes from the, hard nationalist, Hindu nationalists on social media all over the world. Some of them are such geniuses that they're sitting in a predominantly Muslim country, earning from there, and even then they keep on tweeting against Islam. So everybody in the Muslim world is going to think that you are after Islam. Congratulations. That is a great mountain to die on, right? But and that is why you have to pay attention to the Pakistani counter of Operation Sindoor, the name, the nomenclature. Usually for India, we used to have English names. It was against terrorism that Islamic names were used, Zabazab and whatnot, right? It has changed. You can blame or you can, accuse Pakistani army chief of being a hardliner. That is not so. He's a clever man. He has to actually carry the narrative against the terrorists that are using or subverting the name of Islam. And every day we actually go through this test. And yet you had to attack mosques. How stupid could you be? The world now will automatically think of dunderheads that you are, and you are, right? But my point was that you are physically incapable of showing compassion towards Muslims or towards Pakistan, and thank you me for the next thing actually slipping to, coming out as well, and that is you might not be capable of being compassionate for Muslims. I don't know how do you find compassion for Christians and Jews then, because your issue is basically with Abrahamic faiths. But regardless, whatever it is, the question is, can you show some kind of regard or empathy for your own diaspora that you are trying to manipulate, blackmail, force into submitting to your will? They are great people. They are awesome people. They kick ass in any field. And yet they are being asked to rationalize whatever stuff you're doing. I wanted to say the other word, SH, right? But whatever your stuff might be, you are asking them to normalize your stupidity. That's not on. They're, you will end up hurting them in the longer run, or then they will rebel against you, because nobody wants to go for a hormonal, mentally sick polity, no matter how close they might be. And I've told you that because of this new nationalism sweeping through various countries, every expatriate, every person from your diaspora, as well as mine, will want to actually prove their own loyalty to their country of adoption, right? You also have this loyalty test for your Muslims, your minorities. Why shouldn't they be asked to actually partake any of that? And then they are going to choose that place because those countries have been so generous to them. Stop abusing your diaspora or lose them to the other side. I want this to sink in, right? And I'm not kidding. I've spoken to hundreds of Indian diaspora members, and this is with the exception of the first, generation of people who are affluent enough that they can do whatever they want. Anybody who actually wants to belong there does not want to belong to this madness. So, diaspora. Now, the limits of Islamophobia. There was a time when Islamophobia was the defining character of the world, but there are so many other challenges which have come. Of course, there's this talk of the great power rivalry. See, every time you want to fix something and bring it back to the old normal, something new happens. You build this case that China is the enemy and Islam is the enemy, and Russia is going to be the ally, and we are going to work with that, and then you use the Shia Sunni divide to have Iran on your side. But what happened? Then Ukraine happened. Because of Ukraine, all the calculus was out of the window. All of a sudden, Russia became a serious challenge, and China became an enabler, so to speak. Right? This was your whole argument that we kept on hearing. And then this desire to actually drive a wedge between China and Russia and bring Russia to American side. Will that happen? I don't think. Because any such desire will be at the cost of the feelings of Europeans. Even if you change the entire political landscape of Europe, this is not going to happen. But that too will not give you the kind of results that you want. Right? So it is stupid. Really patently stupid. Why go there? Why not actually build on something else? India has this huge population which can be skilled. You have to focus and prioritize, and it will come in solutions. I'm going to wind it up as quickly as possible. Sorry for your patience, sorry for your time, but I thought that we have to have this heart to heart. But this whole stupidity, that window of exploitation when Islamophobia was acceptable in the Overton window has passed. It's gone. There are people who will cling on to it, right? The first administration that Indians also helped actually staff of Donald Trump, in that you had most of those people who had some history of being hurt or hurting in the war on terror, ergo some kind of Islamophobia. But there are people who are smart. Saudi Arabia is a smart country, whether you like it or not. They will not allow this generalization of Islamophobia to get applied to them. So Qatar will allow you. No. UAE will allow you. No. And there are other Muslim countries which have their head and heart in their right places, and they're going to actually fight back if you want to normalize again Islamophobia. Islamophobia had run, unchecked run of 20 years. You cannot ask for any prejudice to last for longer than that. Even Nazi couldn't survive more than that, right? So Islamophobia won't stand. Don't try to overuse it, and stop actually telling your kids that Muslims are enemies. I saw one TikTok video by an expatriate, a very articulate young lady, who was an expatriate who was chastising, people of the world on, criticizing India, and then she plunged into this hate debate, hate talk about Muslims and Christians being the worst conquerors of the world and abusive in the past 2000 years. Whatever that might be at that time, East India Company used to be so powerful. Now, an Indian actually owns East India Company, right? Things change, people change, cultures change, religions change. How can you punish today's reality because of what happened 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago? Crime and culpability cannot be genetically transferred. And that's why the world is a good place it is. Because Britain, United Kingdom, that was one of the worst abuses during colonial times, learned its lesson and wants to be so generous and kind that if you accuse somebody of racism, they bend over backwards to prove you wrong, right? Similarly, so are so many other countries. Please stop filling your kids' heads with this shit because it is going to boomerang on you and it is going to create your country, reshape your country and its diaspora in such a way that it will not be acceptable to anyone. And because of that, I'm going to say that because of lack of democratic accountability, democratic ethos, and don't dismiss what I'm saying just because I'm a Pakistani, right? But you know what I mean. I strive for those values in this country also. But because of lack of democratic accountability based in fear or lack of brutalism or what have you, like ambition or whatever, that will inevitably lead to catastrophic failure. And I'm not part of any tukre gang. I don't want you to fail because I'm not blind. Any country that falls apart now will have ripple effect on other countries also. And I'm not so stupid that I would actually want such an outcome. No, I don't want that. Why else would I waste 1 hour of my life, one precious hour of my life, in telling you what you have done wrong now? By the way, again another stupidity. I could see if you had problem with Narendra Modi for starting a war. I don't see why anybody would want to punish him for ending a war or suspending a war between two nuclear neighbors. Should I tell your people, or will you that CNN reporting on that sudden news that changed J.D. Vance's mind about intervention and mediation? What was that about? The rumor, at least in the policy circles, is that India was so angry with whatever happened that he was actively thinking of reneging its first use policy. Just imagine if that was so. What kind of catastrophe could it have led to? If Narendra Modi or any of his advisors pull you back, they did you incredible good. Whatever you have got even now is because of that. Don't punish him for doing the right thing. Stop actually thinking that Indira Gandhi did something good or she was a champion. Any external projection of inordinate strength leads to oppression, internal oppression. Want an example? Emergency. So these are the failures that I have witnessed in the recent days, and because of that, you're going to face a lot of hardship. What are the solutions? Get rid of this media. Number one, totally demolish the whole model, rework it, build it from scratch. Build it with nuanced minded people, critical thinkers, people who are capable of seeing various shades of reality. The second one is cultivate compassion. You are not being compassionate to your own people. How are you expected to be compassionate towards a country that you call your enemy? But that is why you're still stuck in the third world. You have no excuse to be part of third world with the kind of benefits that came your way. But you're stuck there because you wouldn't let go of old enmities, and you still are thinking more about politics and power than self-preservation and progress. So cultivate empathy. Some empathy for yourself, some for others. Number three, again, part of the same thing I mentioned, bring back critical thinking. Number four, put economy first. Politics can wait. Geostrategy can wait. Whatever nonsense you have been telling the world, nobody is going to buy that. Now, double down and work for the economic betterment of your people. They're competent people, but they are afraid. And they are being asked to do stupid things just for the heck of it. This image captivity thing. They don't owe that. And if you are not going to actually listen to this argument, you will very soon see their pushback. Number six, instead of changing Pakistan's strategy, as many of the dunderheads who are actually sitting on YouTube, they are thinking, change the mentality. See Pakistanis for human beings, not a land to be conquered. You don't need to gain that land. That is absurd. Accept 1947, accept that there's a country next to you and it has 250 million human beings, right? We see your humanity. Try to see ours. Otherwise, you're effed. Number seven, you have to have some strategic plasticity, some kind of strategic rethink. Without that, you will be lost in the details of the past. If you don't do it today, you're done. I can give you a date if you want. I don't want to, but I can give you a date when the catastrophic failure will happen. It is sooner than you can think. And don't think that Pakistan will be first, but it will collapse before you. At least it has corrected its direction. It knows what it needs to do. It might have failed in certain aspects, like it is still combating terrorism, or it's still trying to actually build economy. But man, you have no idea the kind of solutions that you have enabled for Pakistan because of being so stupid, right? So I don't want to give you any dates for catastrophic failure. What I can do is I can actually lock it somewhere, write it down and lock it somewhere, or then post somewhere encrypted number or date online, and you will see everything that I've been seeing. In the immediate, there might be something different than that. In the longer term, exactly that happens. So this is my last attempt to help you see what is wrong, because your media, your intellectuals are incapable of doing that. I see only two people, and yet I haven't heard a word of compassion coming from them for Pakistan. So if you are going to base your entire policy on hate, hate is not a policy. Anger is not a policy. Impulsiveness is not a policy. If you think that all of those things put together can pass for policy, then you are going to end up screwing yourself very soon. Good luck. Good luck to you, and good luck to everybody who thinks that way. I will not have any. I will not be part of any of that. So I am signing out right now. After telling you, these are solutions. These are your problems. You don't fix them. You're done. Gone. Thank you. Take care.